The CB radio crackled softly on the dashboard, occasionally picking up a distorted voice from another trucker reporting road conditions. Jack picked up the now cold cup of coffee resting in the cup holder and took a bitter sip. The liquid burned his throat, but it didn't bring the relief he hoped for. Nothing had brought relief since Martha died 2 years ago. He still wore his wedding ring. His thick, calloused fingers touched the ring from time to time, an unconscious habit that connected him to the 31 years of marriage that had ended in that cold hospital room. Pancreatic cancer. 6 months from diagnosis to the funeral. Martha was only 54 years old. His children, David and Sarah, had begged him to stop driving, sell the truck, retire. But Jack couldn't. The road was all he knew, and stopping would mean being alone with his thoughts, alone in that empty house in Nashville that still smelled of Martha's perfume. The flashing emergency lights on the shoulder of the road pulled him from his melancholy thoughts. Jack slowed down, the diesel engine roaring as he approached the Peterbilt. It was a car, a silver Honda Civic with its hood up, steam billowing from the engine. And beside the vehicle, soaked by the rain, was a woman. She was wearing light blue scrubs under a thin sweatshirt that was already completely soaked. Her brown hair clung to her face, and she hugged herself, visibly trembling in the headlights. When Jack stopped the truck a few meters ahead, she turned around quickly, and he could see the fear in her eyes. Jack grabbed his waterproof jacket from the back seat and climbed out of the cab. The rain hit him immediately, cold and merciless. He walked toward the woman with his hands raised, a universal gesture indicating that he posed no danger. "Hey, it's okay. I'm just a truck driver. I saw you here and thought you might need some help," he shouted over the sound of the rain. The woman looked at him, then at the truck, and then back at her broken-down car. She seemed to be making quick calculations in her head, weighing options in a situation with few alternatives. "My car overheated," she yelled back. "The radiator is leaking." "I have no cell phone signal here," Jack nodded. "It won't be available for a while. We're in the middle of nowhere. The nearest gas station is about 30 miles from here. I can give you a ride there if you want. There's a payphone and maybe even a mechanic on call." She hesitated, and Jack understood perfectly. A woman alone in the middle of the night being offered a ride by a stranger. He would have been worried if she had accepted immediately. "Look," he said, keeping his distance, "I understand if you don't want to, but it's about 40 degrees out here and you're soaked. Hypothermia is serious. I have a daughter about your age. I just want to help." The woman bit her lower lip, then nodded quickly. "Okay, thank you. I really need help." Jack threw her the rain jacket. "Put this on. I'll help you climb up." As she put on the oversized jacket, Jack went to the side of the truck and opened the cab door. He offered her his hand, and she accepted it, stepping onto the wet steps. Her hands were as cold as ice. Inside the cabin, Jack turned the heater on full blast. He grabbed a clean towel he kept behind the seat and handed it to her. "I'm Jack Morrow," he said, turning his attention back to the road and shifting the truck's gears back onto the track. "Claire," she replied, drying her face with the towel. "Claire Patterson. Thank you for stopping. Many people simply walked right past. It's hard to trust strangers these days," Jack said. "I don't blame them, but I can't just leave someone out in the cold like that either." Claire was silent for a moment, shivering even though the heat was already beginning to fill the cabin. Jack noticed that she kept glancing in the side mirror as if checking to see if anyone was following them. "Are you a nurse?" he asked, pointing to her scrubs. "Yes," she replied quickly. I used to work at a hospital in Oklahoma City. I was going to visit my sister in Memphis." There was something about the way she said work that caught Jack's attention, and her route didn't make much sense. From Oklahoma City to Memphis, she shouldn't have been on I-40 at that point, not at that hour of the morning. But Jack had learned on the road that everyone had their secrets, their reasons for being where they were. He wasn't one to ask too many questions. They drove in silence for a few minutes, only the sound of the diesel engine and the windshield wipers cutting through the rain. Claire kept looking in the rearview mirrors, and her hands trembled even as she rubbed them, trying to warm them. "How long have you been on the road?" she finally asked, probably trying to break the tense silence. 23 years, Jack replied. "I started when I was 27. I've always enjoyed driving, seeing the country. I never got tired of it." "Do you have family?" "I had a wife, Martha. She passed away 2 years ago. Cancer." The words came out more easily than he expected. "I have 2 adult children. David works in IT in Atlanta, and Sarah is a teacher in Portland." "I'm so sorry for your loss," Claire said, and there was a sincerity in her voice that made Jack glance at her briefly. "Thank you. And you? Family?" Claire tensed. "It's complicated." Jack nodded. "I understand." More silence. Then Claire asked, "Do you miss her? Your wife?" "Every day," Jack admitted. "Mostly at night on the road. We used to talk on the phone whenever I stopped to rest. She'd tell me about the garden, about the neighbors, about anything really. Just hearing her talk about ordinary things made me feel like I had a home to come back to. You two should love each other very much." Yes, we loved each other. Jack adjusted his position in the seat. "She always knew that the road was part of who I am. She never asked me to stop, even when she was sick. She said I'd be miserable, stuck in one place. Was she right?" "Probably," Jack admitted with a sad half-smile. They were approaching a gas station, their neon lights shining through the rain like a beacon. Jack put on his turn signal and began to slow down. "I'm going to stop here," he said. "You can use the phone, and I need to refuel anyway." But when he looked at Claire, she was pale, her eyes fixed on a dark sedan parked near the bombs. "No," she said quickly. "Don't stop here, please continue." Jack frowned. "Claire, you need to call a tow truck for your car. And you should probably call your sister and let her know you're running late." "Please," she repeated, and there was real panic in her voice now. "Just keep going. I'll explain, I promise, but don't stop here." Jack looked at the sedan, then at Claire. All his decades of experience on the road, all the stories he'd heard, all the types of people he'd met, it all screamed that something was very wrong. He kept his foot on the gas and drove straight past the gas station. "All right," he said calmly. "I'm not going to stop. But Claire, I need you to be honest with me. Are you in danger?" Claire closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, there were tears mixed with the rainwater that was still dripping from her hair. "Yes," she whispered. "I think so." Jack gripped the steering wheel tighter. "All right, then let's figure this out together. Let's start from the beginning." Claire looked at him, at that 50-year-old stranger with grey hair and kind eyes who had stopped to help her, and something in her gave way. Perhaps it was exhaustion, perhaps it was despair, or perhaps it was something in his voice that reminded her of her own father, long deceased. "My name really is Claire Patterson," she began, "and I really am a nurse, but I wasn't going to visit my sister. I was running away." Jack kept his eyes on the road, but gestured for her to continue. "I was working at St. Anthony Medical Center in Oklahoma City. Night shift, ICU. About 3 months ago, I started noticing some strange things. Patients who should have been getting better were suddenly getting worse. Medications that were prescribed didn't match what was being administered in the records." "Do you think someone was tampering with the records?" Jack asked. "Not just altering it. I think someone was intentionally harming patients." Jack felt a chill down his spine. "My God." "I know how it sounds," Claire continued quickly. "I know. But I've seen things, Jack. I saw a man, Dr. Richard Hayden, he's one of the senior doctors, injecting something into an IV line that wasn't prescribed. When I questioned him, he said it was just a supplement the patient asked for, something natural that didn't need to be on the official chart. But that patient died that night. Sudden cardiac arrest. He was only 62 years old and was recovering well from routine surgery. Did you report this? I tried. I went to the hospital administrator, showed him my concerns, the patterns I had documented. But Dr. Hayden is respected. He's worked there for 20 years. And I'm just a nurse with 5 years of experience. They told me I was stressed, that I was seeing patterns where there weren't any, that maybe I should take some time off. Claire paused, her voice trembling. But then I started receiving threats. First, it was just calls hung up in the middle of the night. Then someone broke into my apartment, but nothing was stolen, just ransacked, as if someone was looking for something. Last night I was leaving the hospital and a man approached me in the parking lot. He didn't identify himself, but he said I should stop asking questions, that I should forget what I had seen, or something bad could happen. Did you go to the police? Jack asked. I tried, but without concrete evidence, what can they do? And I was afraid that if I insisted too much, I might end up like those patients. She looked at Jack with eyes full of fear. So I got in my car and started driving. I didn't have a plan. I just needed to get out of Oklahoma City. And then my car broke down, and I thought maybe it was the end, that whoever was after me would find me there on the road. Jack processed it all. It was a crazy story, the kind of thing you see in movies, not in real life. But he looked at Claire, at the genuine fear in her eyes, at the way she was huddled in her seat as if she wanted to disappear, and he believed her. The car at the gas station, he said. Did you think someone was following you? Claire nodded. It was a black sedan, just like the one I saw parked near my apartment the last few days. It might be paranoia, but I couldn't take any chances. Jack stood silent for a long moment, lost in thought. The road stretched out before them, wet and dark. The rain had lessened to a light drizzle. Okay, he finally said. Here's what we're going to do. We're about 100 miles to Little Rock. I have a delivery there, but I can postpone it for a day. We'll find a safe place for you to stay, and then we'll figure out the next step. Do you have any evidence of what you saw? Photos, documents, anything? Claire shook her head. I didn't have time to grab anything. I just left. Okay. First, you need a safe place. I have a friend in Little Rock, a former police officer. If anyone can help, it's him. Why are you doing this? Claire asked suddenly. You don't know me. I could be lying. I could be crazy. Jack shrugged. You could, but I don't think so. And even if it were, you're still someone who needs help. My Martha used to say that kindness costs nothing, and you never know when you'll need it back. Claire felt tears burning her eyes again. Thank you. They drove in silence for a few more minutes before Jack picked up the CB radio. I'll check with the other truckers, see if anyone saw that black sedan following us. He turned on the radio and said, Breaker, breaker, this is Silver Bullet coming out of Amarillo. Can anyone hear me? A crackling voice replied, This is Big John. I hear you, Silver Bullet. What's the situation? I'm on I-40, about 70 miles east of Oklahoma City, looking for information about a black sedan that might be driving around here. Has anyone seen anything? There was a pause, then another voice came in. This is Midnight Runner. I saw a black sedan speeding past about 10 minutes ago. It seemed to be in a hurry. Direction? Jack asked. East. Same direction as you. Jack looked at Claire. Thank you, Midnight Runner. Keep your eyes open. Always, partner. Watch out. Jack turned off the radio. It might be nothing, but let's keep an eye out. They're following me, Claire said, her voice barely a whisper. I knew it. How did they find me? Your cell phone, Jack said. If they have the resources, they can track your cell phone. Claire pulled her phone out of her pocket and looked at it as if it were a venomous snake. I didn't even think about that. Turn it off. Remove the battery if you can. Claire followed the instructions, removing the phone's battery and placing both in the glove compartment. And now? Now we've thought, Jack said. If they're really following you, they probably know you hitched a ride on a truck. They'll be looking for us. We need to be smart. Jack picked up the radio again. Big John, are you still there? Sim, Silver Bullet. I need a favor. Where are you going? Memphis. Why? If you see that black sedan, could you try putting on a little act? Maybe make it look like it's me? Turn the lights on and off, that whole thing? There was a laugh from the other end. Trying to throw someone off the scent, are you? Something like that. Okay, partner, I'll see what I can do. Thank you, Big John. I owe you one. Jack turned off the radio and looked at Claire. Truckers are careful. If we can make them think you're in another truck, maybe we can get to Little Rock without any problems. And then what? Then my friend Tom will help us figure out the next step. They continued driving, the tension in the cabin palpable. Claire couldn't stop looking in the rearview mirrors, and Jack kept a constant watch as well. The night was getting clearer on the horizon, the grey of dawn replacing the black of night. Tell me more about your wife, Claire said suddenly. I need to think about something else, or I'll go crazy. Jack smiled slightly. Martha was a teacher. 2nd grade. She loved those children as if they were her own. Every summer, when I came home for a few weeks, our house was full of artwork the students had made for her. She kept them all. She seems to have been a special person. She was. She had this way of making you feel like the most important person in the world when she talked to you. Total attention, you know? In the last few months, when she was very ill, I took time off from the road. I stayed with her every day, and even on those terrible days, she would find something to smile about, a silly joke, a bird at the window, anything. Were you with her at the end? I was, holding her hand. She looked at me and said, "Don't stop spinning, Jack. Promise you won't stop." And then she was gone. Claire wiped away a tear. She knew that the road keeps you alive. Yes, she knew. The radio crackled again. Silver Bullet, this is Big John. That black sedan just overtook me like a bat crawled out of hell. I think he took the bait. Good job, Big John. Watch out. Always. Jack let out a sigh of relief. Maybe we bought ourselves some time. But Claire wasn't convinced. They'll understand eventually. And when they do, by the time they realize it, we'll already be in Little Rock and you'll be safe, Jack said firmly. I promise, Claire. I'll protect you. There was something about the way he said it, with such conviction, that made Claire believe him. She nodded and snuggled deeper into her seat, exhaustion finally taking hold of her. You can rest a little, Jack said gently. We still have about 2 hours of travel left. I'll keep an eye on things. Claire tried to resist, but her eyes were heavy. The warm cabin, the constant sound of the engine, the feeling of being, for the first time in days, relatively safe. Everything conspired to pull her into sleep. Jack drove in silence while Claire slept, his thoughts swirling. What had he gotten himself into? He was just a trucker, not a hero. But as he looked at the young woman huddled in the seat beside him, shivering slightly even in the heat of the cab, he knew he couldn't have left her behind. Martha would have been proud. Dawn arrived slowly, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The rain had stopped completely, and the road was beginning to get busier with morning traffic. Jack stopped at a small, carefully chosen gas station, a busy place where they wouldn't stand out. Claire woke up when the truck stopped, instantly alert. Where are we? About 40 miles from Little Rock. I need to refuel and use the restroom. You should too. And let's grab something to eat. Claire looked around nervously. Do you think it's safe? As safe as it gets, but stay close to me, okay? They pulled into the gas station together. Jack paid for the fuel and bought fresh coffee, sandwiches, and some snacks. Claire went to the bathroom and washed her face, looking at her reflection in the stained mirror. She barely recognized herself, red eyes, disheveled hair, still wearing her work scrubs, which were now crumpled and dirty. How had her life come to this point? 3 months ago, she was an ordinary nurse, worried about shifts, bills, and maybe one day finding someone special. Now she was running from... what exactly? A conspiracy at the hospital? It seemed absurd when put that way. But she had seen what she had seen, and the man in the parking lot had been real, as had the threats. When she left, Jack was waiting with coffee and food. "Let's eat in the truck. Less chance of being noticed." And back in the cabin, they ate in silence. The hot coffee was exactly what Claire needed, and the sandwich, though simple, was the first decent meal she'd had in over 24 hours. "Thank you," she said, "for all of this." "No need to thank me," Jack replied. "I'm just doing what's right. Not everyone would do that. So not everyone is decent. But that's no excuse for me not to be." They got back on the road, and soon the skyscrapers of Little Rock began to appear on the horizon. Jack took out his cell phone and made a call. "Tom, it's Jack. Yes, I know it's been a while. Look, I need a favor, a big favor." "No, it's not that. It's more complicated. I have someone with me who needs help." "Really?" "Yes, now. Are you still at that address on Maple Street?" "Great. We'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up and looked at Claire. "Tom Delgado. We worked together years ago, before he retired from the force. If anyone can help, it's him." 20 minutes later, Jack parked the Peterbilt in front of a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. A man of about 60 years old, with military-style grey hair and a still impressive physique, came out of the house. "Jack Morrow," Tom said with a big smile, pulling Jack into a bear hug. "Long time no see, old friend." "Too long, Tom. This is Claire Patterson. Claire, Tom Delgado." Tom looked at Claire with the experienced eyes of a police officer, noticing the scrubs, the exhaustion, the barely disguised fear. "Nice to meet you, Claire. Why don't we go inside? My wife Rita made fresh coffee." Inside the cozy house, filled with family photos, Claire finally began to feel safe. Rita, a warm woman with a soft Mexican accent, immediately enveloped her in maternal care, offering clean clothes and a warm bath. While Claire was in the bathroom, Jack told Tom the whole story. The former police officer listened attentively, asking occasional questions, his face growing increasingly serious. "That's serious, Jack," Tom said when he finished. "If what she's saying is true, we're talking about murder, multiple murders. And if someone is willing to kill patients in a hospital, they're certainly willing to silence a witness." "I know. That's why I came to you. What can we do?" "First, we need to keep her safe. Second, we need evidence. Without it, it's her word against that of a respected doctor. Third," Tom paused. "Third, we need to find out exactly what's going on at that hospital." Claire returned, wearing jeans and a t-shirt borrowed from Rita, her hair still damp from the shower. She seemed a little more like herself, but the fear was still there. "Claire," Tom said gently, "Jack told me your story. I believe you, and I'll do everything I can to help. But I need you to tell me everything again, from the beginning. Every detail, no matter how small it seems." For more than an hour, Claire recounted everything. The patients she had seen inexplicably worsen, the inconsistencies in the medical records, Dr. Hayden and his suspicious actions, the threats he had received. Tom took notes, asking insightful questions that made Claire remember details she had forgotten. "And you said someone ransacked your apartment?" Tom asked. "Yes, but as I said, nothing was stolen. They were looking for evidence, for anything you could have documented." Tom drummed his fingers on the table. "The question is, why? Why would a doctor risk his career, his freedom to harm patients?" I've been thinking about it, Claire said. At first, I couldn't understand it, but then I started noticing a pattern. All the patients who died, they were all elderly. They all had good health insurance, and they were all scheduled for expensive procedures or long-term treatments. Tom leaned forward. What are you suggesting? That he was killing patients to cut costs? Or to free up beds for more lucrative patients? I don't know. But there has to be a financial reason. Nothing else makes sense. Insurance companies, Jack murmured. I'd bet there are insurance companies involved in this. Tom nodded slowly. That would be motivating. If someone is being paid to cut costs in an extremely unethical way. My God, Claire, you've stumbled upon something big here. What do I do? Claire asked, her voice small. I can't go back to Oklahoma City. I can't go back to the hospital, and I have no evidence for anything I'm saying. You can't go back to the hospital, Tom agreed. But maybe we can get the evidence another way. As? I still have contacts, friends in various precincts in the FBI. Let me make a few calls, see what I can find out about Dr. Hayden and St. Anthony Medical Center. In the meantime, you stay here. Rita and I have a guest room. You're safe here. Claire looked at Jack, who nodded encouragingly. Tom is one of the good ones. If anyone can help, it's him. But what about you? Claire asked. You have your deliveries, your life. I've held you back for too long already. Jack smiled. My delivery can wait a day or two. And besides, he paused, surprised at what he was about to say. I'm not going anywhere until I'm sure you're okay. In the following days, Tom's house became an impromptu operations center. Tom made calls, gathered information, and pulled strings to ask for favors from old friends. What he discovered was disturbing. Dr. Richard Hayden had an impeccable reputation on the surface, but digging deeper, Tom found some interesting things. He had significant gambling debts from a few years ago that were suddenly paid off. He had offshore bank accounts, and he was on the advisory payroll of several firms.